Hello and welcome to Trek Tuesdays. Every week I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about Star Trek. Uh, and what I'd like to do first, with this being basically episode 0, I guess you could say, is I want to go over my background with the Star Trek series and I'll rank the series as I see them as we sit. Now keep in mind the new Jean-Luc show is not premiered yet, with this being October 2018, so it may change a little bit here. Now, I know it may surprise some of you, but being a 300-pound, bespeckled white guy, yes, I do like the Star Trek series. So, I have not, obviously, even though I'm 45, I'm not old enough to have seen the original series on television. The one I basically grew up with is Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, I will be honest with you, I love The Next Generation, but to me, it hasn't aged terribly well. There's still episodes of it that I dearly love. LaForge is, of course, one of my favorite characters. Data is always a big star. I do love the interaction between Riker and everybody else. And Deanna Troi is still hotter than fire. And yeah, season 2, let's not talk about that too much. Even though as an LA Law fan, I do kind of love that actress just because she's basically playing the same character in space as a doctor instead of a lawyer. Just unfortunately, I guess with a turbo lift, you don't have an elevator shaft. Yes, old LA Law reference there, which another show I really wish Netflix or Hulu would pull back, but that's just me. But I will say that I just don't feel it's aged that well. I do love the Q episodes. To me, they're always the best episode of every season. I do love the Klingon episodes. I do love how the characters have grown throughout the series, even though it is, the wagon train to the stars, so to speak. So a lot of things don't carry over, but a lot of the major arcs do carry over. And of course, I do love, we won't talk about season 2, but I do love that actress. I think she's wonderful. She basically plays the same character she did in LA Law. Just instead of being a lawyer, she's now playing a doctor in space. But it's essentially the same character. I don't really like the way they tried to push her and Data as two polar opposites. But again, that's what they tried to do. Unfortunately, you don't have elevator shafts, and I guess you couldn't really do anything with turbo lifts at the end of season 2. But yeah, old LA Law reference, sorry about that, and talk about shows I wish Netflix would put back on. I do catch The Next Generation on BBC America, but again, it's not something I'm going to automatically stop and watch. Next up, you have Deep Space Nine, a show that has completely flipped upon rewatching. To tell you the truth, I did not like the Cisco episodes. When the show was on, I just couldn't get behind Benjamin Sisko. He just didn't do anything for me. I much preferred the Jadzia Dax, Worf, Miles O'Brien, of course, because you always have to torture Miles O'Brien. And, of course, Garrick is probably my favorite Star Trek character of them all. I absolutely love those. I love Odo. Just the entire show, it's my favorite. And I really feel it picks up in the Dominion War. Me and Kiddo number 2, we actually are watching that on DVD because I have a lot of them on DVD. I think we're midway through season 5, if memory serves. He even enjoys it, and he's 20. We're going to be 20. But I do feel that it's one of those shows that, like I said, to me, it's gotten better. Upon rewatching it, I like the Cisco episodes a lot more. I do tend to still get a little tired with the emissary stuff, especially towards the end of the show. But I like it a lot more than I did. I like his whole writer thing that he does. The time travel episodes don't bother me that much. And again, I just love the Ferengis, which is kind of amazing, again, because whether it is in the Next Generation. Enterprise, I didn't catch up until last year with this, with it being on Netflix. I didn't really, let me back up. Next up you have Voyager, which I've always read was always like a really bad show, a really inconclusive show. I do like Kate Mulgrew, even though it's hilarious watching her in Orange is the New Black, because I'll catch things and the wife has no clue because she's not a Trek fan. But I do find her to be one of the better actresses in Star Trek history, to be quite honest with you. But watching the show, I didn't mind it too much. I kind of got annoyed with it more than disliking it, to be quite honest with you. I had my own problems with Voyager. toward the end, the whole wraparound 7 of 9, that got annoying. The whole Borg shows, that got highly annoying. And to tell you the truth, it just felt like a lot of the later seasons of it, it's like they were just stretching for something to do for 22 episodes. It's like they had 15 good ideas and then they just had to pull something else to pad the episode count. It's kind of like the Netflix Marvel series. Had Luke Cage been 8 episodes, it would have been good and tight and could have done very well. But when you just got to get 13 episodes, it's just not there. There's just not enough arcing storyline or B-sides to go with it. But if I had to go with the Voyager, it's more annoying than anything else. There's just certain things that just get on my nerves. One thing I do like about Picard with Enterprise is the flagship. It's bigger, better, badder than anything else in Starfleet has. And with DS9, you've got this you've got the space station, which is incredible. It's big, it's huge, it's highly defensible, it's a military weapon, which is why the Cardassians built it. Then you've got the Defiant, the little gunship that's overpowered, too overpowered for its own good, but it's built to take on the Borg, which is stupid if you really sit there and think about it. But that's what I liked about those shows. And then you've got Voyager, which is at times the strongest ship out there, and at times it's next to nothing, and they have to use their wits, and there's just not a balance there. Is it strong or is it not? And then you have the whole Delta Flyer crap, and like I said, just a lot of it just just annoys the fool out of me. Sorry, just being that way. Then we get the Enterprise, which again I didn't see until last year, and we go from everything being special to it being the only one, which I do feel, unfortunately, it didn't really have that long of a run, and I get the feeling I feel that they canceled it right as it was really starting to find its foothold. Problems I have with Enterprise, and part of the problem I have with whole kinds of prequels, is we know where this is going. We know what happens eventually. There's no real stakes. It's kind of like Next Generation. Okay, we have our cast, they're all there, Tasha Yar dies. Okay, that actually shakes things up. Somebody actually dies. Voyager, you have half the crew die. Okay, that shakes things up. DS9, Jadzia dies at the end. Okay, that shakes stuff up. But you also have a lot of political stuff that shakes things up. Worf comes in, Miles comes in. They actually do shake up the cast. Voyager, not really. It's not like they could run up against a Borg cube and things explode. And then they double down on the whole time travel stuff. And that just got on my nerves. It made it hard to get anything done. Because again, we've got to explain the Klingons, which is, just let it go. Just pretend it's not there. Just don't address it. Get over it. But, and the ending, don't get me started. Enterprise is right up there with How I Met Your Mother as far as worst endings ever. But that's just me. I do love Tucker. He's probably one of my favorite characters. Scott Bakula, of course, being a Quantum Leap guy, he's a lot of fun. But again, there's too much off with that show for it to really stand on its own. Again, it's got the prequel problems. It's got the problems with they have to make the Andorians the big bad, which we all know how the Andorians end up. You've got to have this 5-way fight, which doesn't make any sense to me. Where it's the whole divide and conquer, but it's stretched out over a couple of years, which, And then lastly, we have Discovery, which is our newest entry. And even though I didn't see, but was put out for free because I'm not about to pay for CBS All Access, sorry, not going to happen. I haven't seen it, even though I do have a code to watch CBS All Access. Thank you very much, Josh. I just haven't, and so far, to tell you the truth, I didn't much like it. The alternate universe, and again, we've got to do more Klingons. Oh, good Lord. Can we do something else other than bend over backwards for the Klingons? One thing I'll give Enterprise, at least they didn't have Klingons. They're on the other end of the space. Can we go the other way? What's to the left? What's down? What's up? What's down? We got other directions other than directly toward the Klingon Empire. I do kind of like the way they had number 1 as the main character. Had a feeling that wasn't going to last very long. I've tried to stay unspoiled by it, and I've done a pretty good job. I know some of the major arcs that have happened, but I just try to avoid it as much as I can. So if I had to rank them, at the end of their first watching, I would probably go Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine, then Enterprise, then Voyager. Again, the series that I've seen them all. As I sit now, if I had to sit down with all of them and watch them all, I would definitely go Deep Space Nine, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Enterprise, I would probably put second, just because, again, it's a more... It seems like it's going up, and you almost feel like whenever they end the show, we could have done another 3 seasons, and it would have just kept escalating and getting better. Next Generation would be after that, again, because it kind of dips down a bit. And, and then, of course, we got Voyager at dead last. Even though, again, some episodes of Voyager I do entirely like. But, so that's how I would rank the 4 seasons. And again, like I said, I can't speak on Discovery. Now, if you've noticed, I skipped over the original series. And to be honest with you, I have not seen the original series. I will be honest with you. I don't think I've ever... I guarantee you I've seen less than 5 episodes. It's one of those series where what little I did dip my toe into them, I was real young. I didn't like it. I wasn't that impressed with it. I've seen all the movies, of course, and the movies are not overly impressive. Of course, Wrath of Khan is, of course, one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. And I've seen snippets of it. I've seen clip shows of them, and I just cannot get into it. I'm not that big a fan of William Shatner. I don't see what makes Spock all that impressive. Again, the new movies have kind of shoved Spock into everything. Bless his heart, Lemon Nimoy. To tell you the truth, I like him much better in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but still, I just never have sat down and watched it, and it's now on Netflix. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sit here and I'm going to watch the original series, and I'm going to see how I like it. And I'm just going to, kind of like I had to do with Voyager and certain parts of Enterprise, I'm going to slog my way through it, and hopefully I'll see what makes it that impressive. And we'll see where it ranks. Again, spoilers for a 40-year-old episode, 50-year-old show, because we are, 50 years, goodness. We are midway through a 50-year anniversary of the show. So, spoilers ahead. If you've never watched it, by all means, you can come back and we'll talk about it. And I will come back next week with episode 1 pilot. And please join me for Trek Tuesdays. Any questions you've got, put them in the chats. I will be glad to answer to them. Make sure you hit us up on 7poundbag.com. Actually, on the website, I started trying to do an episode-by-episode biography of Deep Space Nine. I got about 2 episodes and 15 pages written, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't find a good angle that hasn't been done to death. And I tried to do it from a crew member being on the ship, what he would be hearing and seeing. And I kind of got the feeling that I was delving more into fan fiction more than show-by-show review. But come back next week. We will talk about episode 1 pilot. And even though I'm not that big a fan of Shatner and the characters and all that, I don't have to worry about it because none of the original pilot people ever come back but Spock. So we'll get to see how that works. And thank you for listening. Any comments, put them below, and have a good week.